Okay, so we are live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Baruch Hashem, we are finally able to do this together. Last week we tried and it didn't work, which is, as my mother said then, a perfect example and a perfect explanation for why any digital learning is always fraught with difficulty. But we're not deterred, we're not dejected, we don't give up so quickly. And as my mother has taught me very well, if you don't succeed the first time, try again. So we're living by example. And that's one of the things I definitely learned growing up, is not to give up very quickly and to keep on persevering and not being discouraged by initial setbacks. So I'm proud to say that we are here live, looking forward to a wonderful conversation with my mother. Last time that we did this together, I had an interview with my mother. I got tremendous feedback. Everyone loved seeing it. I think they just love seeing that there's kids and adults that, mothers and sons that talk to each other. So that alone is worth it. If it helps any family, they should talk more often. That's already worthwhile. But last time the conversation was more focused on the fact that you're my mother and on being raised in Coral Springs 35 years ago, when there was a much smaller Chabad community and a different kind of educational environment, etc. Today, we're going to focus on the fact that you're the principal, the head of a very beautiful, successful school that I'm very proud to say 6 of my 7 kinderlach go there, and Baruch Hashem. I'm not saying this because I'm related or because I'm biased, but I'm truly happy with both the education of the school and the service and the environment and the personal attention that my kids get. So I'm just thinking, it's like we're going to say now in a few weeks on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, when we open the Ark and we sing Avinu Malkeinu, and we describe God as our Father, our King. There's 2 different dimensions that we have with God. So to growing up as a child, there was 2 different dimensions to my mother. There was my mother and my father. And then don't tell anyone, but the few times that I got in trouble, right? Even the rabbis get into trouble sometimes, unless you ask my grandmother. If you ask not my mother, my father's mother, my father never got into trouble. But otherwise, when I got into trouble, so then I got punished by the principal in school, and then I got it again at home. So I guess if I wanted to share my life story with my community, only sharing the mother side of my mother would only be half of my life story. Not half, but so we need to share the principal side as well. Another thing I learned growing up, not from my mother, but from my father, was always to start with a joke. And my mother knows the joke of this kid that wakes up one morning, tells his mother, "Ma, I don't want to go to school. All the kids hate me and they all make fun of me. And all the teachers, behind my back, they imitate me and they make fun of me." And the mother says, "You have to go to school. You're the principal, you got to go," right? So here's the other way around. My mother's a principal, but let's talk, before we even get into the many educational things I want to talk about today, Ma, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself. Besides that you're the rabbi's mother.
Well, that's my claim to fame. I'm the rabbi's mother.
Yes. But besides you being the rabbi's mother, and we already discussed last time when you were in the store and someone thought, "Oh, you're the rabbi's mother," and you thought I'm talking about your husband.
It was quite a shock.
Yes.
My father is, you go through different stages in life. You're someone's kid, you're someone's spouse, you're someone's parent. I became someone's mechuteneste, someone's in-law. You go through different, now I'm someone's bubby.
Now I give you a blessing. Soon you'll be the rabbi's grandmother.
Baruch Hashem. Yes.
It's not too far away, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All those that are watching, good evening to everyone that's watching. Amy says hello, and Randy says hello, and Susan.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. So we all bless you one day to be the rabbi's grandmother.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Aside from being a mother of 10 kids, which is probably the best educational experience and hands-on training you can get, but besides for that, what's your educational background and experience?
So, I went to Jewish day school, a Chabad day school, all my growing up years, elementary school, middle school, high school, teacher seminary. And then we came here and we started the school. Eventually, I and a group of teachers, we got our master's degree from Nova Southeastern University. And when we first did our portfolios to be accepted into the program, they were absolutely blown away by the quality of the work that the teachers were showing, the creativity, the thought process, the emphasis on values. It wasn't just, you know, like let's teach the math problems or whatever. And they were really excited to have a whole cohort of teachers from our school to get our master's in education. So that was something that just added to, besides the experience, there's a lot of value in the learning and so on. But the bottom line is that the most lessons and so on that we have in how to teach really comes from Torah, comes from Chassidus, from, you know, those values, and that gives us the reason why we have a school. It's not simply a job. It's not simply something I could say, well, it works for me, so I'll do it this year. It doesn't work for me, I won't do it this year. That is not, that's not what being an educator is. Being an educator is a life mission. It's not simply a job. I mean, it's a job too, but I consider myself to be very fortunate that, you know, everybody has to work one way or another, and we're very lucky that we're not simply working, we're really doing something that is absolutely meaningful every minute of the day. It's difficult, sometimes very challenging, but it really is, it's something that you see the rewards. You see rewards right away, you see rewards, you know, down the line. One of our graduates at Memorial Day, we wanted to have, you know, the kids couldn't go. We take them usually to like different ceremonies in towns near the school. Obviously, they couldn't go anywhere this year in May, but we had some of our alumni who are in the armed services and so on speaking to them. There's nothing like it. You know, these are kids who went through our system, who understand what it means to be involved in the community, and they're talking to the younger children, and it's very, very beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you mind for a second? How did you get into education? How did you start?
It was pretty much something that I always knew I was going to do, even when I was a kid. And you know, I was supposed to be a valedictorian in my 8th grade graduation class, and I said, no way. I'm not speaking in front of parents. Even then, I already had a little cynical thing. I said, they don't want to hear me. They want to hear their own kid. I was very nervous to do any kind of public speaking. And my father then said to me, he said, one day you're going to be a principal of a school. It somehow was always out there that, you know, if you have abilities, you know, you owe it to your, you know, God holds you accountable for the talent that he gives you. You know, if you can be, you know, if you can be someone who can work in education, then you need to do that. So it was always something that I was going to do. I didn't exactly, you know, have this particular vision, you know, and I started in New York working with older kids. I taught middle school, and I taught Mahochana, you know, a school for young women who are coming back to Yiddishkeit, who have really no background. So it's college, older women. So I was doing classes like that. And then when we moved to Coral Springs, we said we're going to start a school. And I had to start with preschool. I'm like, I don't know anything about preschool. And I learned. And you know what? I realized that having a teacher voice is... a
teacher voice. What's a teacher voice?
Teacher voice is when you have a certain attitude of, this is my space where I'm going to welcome you in, and I am going to do my best to guide you and lead you to explore and to develop and grow as a person. So there has to be a certain sense of confidence, there has to be a nurturing, there has to be an ability to think, there has to be an ability to be creative. There's many different pieces. But when we say that someone is a good teacher, we look for the teacher voice, that somehow just when they walk in, before you know anything about what they're going to do, but they somehow impart this like this aura of, you know, I'm here.
Authority.
It's more than authority. There definitely needs to be a certain level of authority. Children need to have a structure to feel safe, that someone is in charge. You know, an 8-year-old does not want to think that they have to take care of the world. They really don't. But you sort of give forth this aura of that you're in charge, but at the same time, I'm here for you because I'm going to help you be the best person that you could be. And, you know, the words that you use are different for a 4-year-old than for a high school child. But, and even the college women who were learning, there's still a certain common denominator of, I'm here, and yes, I have certain things that I'm going to impart to you, but it's about your growth. And that's across the board. You know, Casey Rojo, your younger sister complains, no, you're only saying that because you're the principal. And I'm like, no.
I can't imagine why she would say that.
I'm only, but see, but here's the point. I'm only the principal because I say these things, because I believe these things. That's why I could be the principal. I think that's really the order.
So Susan says that you are a wonderful preschool teacher. Susan Holtzman says you're a wonderful preschool teacher. Okay, so let's get to, I agree, by the way. So now that we know in general your passion for education, and I'm saying this hopefully in an objective way, I really believe you're a true educator that's committed to education. And I've seen you start talking about an educational topic, and a half hour later, you're still, you know, fully into it and explaining it with all the excitement and passion of someone who really lives and cares for what they do. So let's talk about this year. Obviously, the coronavirus is a real threat, and there's many people that are very afraid of bringing illness home, of children spreading illness. So we're not getting into whether or not children will spread illness or won't spread. We don't know that. We're not doctors. Let's talk from an educational perspective, because that's what you do know.
Yes.
What are the downsides of doing online classes, virtual school versus an in-person school?
So before the actual downside of the online per se, there is a downside of saying, I can't go out. I have to stay home. I can only connect virtually. Part of our mission statement is that we believe that the purpose of the education is to give children the ability, besides to be lifelong learners and besides to have skills, is to have the ability to really live with joy and confidence, to feel like I can accomplish. And, you know, school is how you learn to succeed at tasks. When we say you have to stay home because we're so afraid of what's out there, this is very challenging. So when you have a short amount of time where there is a crisis at the moment, you know, okay, so we get it, and everybody's sort of in the same boat, and you know, you weather the storm. But to continue ongoing, where kids see that people are going to work, they see that the Publix employees are working and the gas station employees are working, but somehow their schooling is it such a great risk? That's very fear-inducing. Is it so unimportant? That's very, you know, it sort of belittles the importance that we put on a child. No one is, chas v'shalom, no one means it that way. But when you're a child and you see everybody going about their business, but oh, no, we can't have school because that's dangerous. You know, what is a child supposed to think? Now, again, in a crisis, that's one thing, but many of the doctors and so on are saying, we don't know how long this is going to last. This could be months. This could be a year. This could be 2 years. This is not a plan. Sitting and cowering is not a plan. We get into cars every day. We trust that we're doing our best. We put on seatbelts. It's not a guarantee. We check our cars. It's not a guarantee. That's part of the cost of being alive. So I feel very strongly that you cannot say to a child, don't worry. You have to act that way. And putting a child at home, not being able to do what is natural to him, is you're giving the message that there's something to worry about. And you could say we're not worried from today till tomorrow, but that's not the message you're imparting. So
that was a very powerful presentation, by the way. That was very well said, yes.
I absolutely believe this. And by the way, if this would be another year or so, ultimately, I mean, in today's climate, it's a little difficult to say, but from my perspective, my goal is that everybody gets up and eventually could establish a long-term relationship and get married and have a family. You cannot get married to a computer. So the need to be able to, you know, there are developmental steps, you know, where you have like the prime moment to develop certain skills, whether it's language or reading or vocabulary or social skills and so on. And in these younger years, it's crucial to learn to interact with other people, and missing that time it's not, okay, I'll catch up another chapter of math. This is not about content. Not minimizing, that's also important, but it is so much more about not dropping the ball on the developmental process of becoming a successful, confident, productive human being. We're putting potholes in the kids' way if we don't if this is to stretch out a whole year, I think it's going to be a serious challenge. And this is not talking about all the worries that are coming up about kids who don't have food, kids who don't have access to internet so that they could join online, kids who are in homes whose parents are abusive or depressed, or kids who have anxiety. I'm not talking about all of those situations, which are extremely important. And by the way, when we first closed, we were the only school. We said, what are we going to do with all the kids who get lunch? Breakfast and lunch, what's going to happen with them? And you know that we launched this huge program, and together with Teach Florida and a few other organizations, we've been giving out food all over Dade and Broward County, because this is a serious, issue.
Yeah. By the way, as a parent, I'll just say it was an amazing, I was very impressed with the school. The last few weeks we're going, getting boxes of food.
We were because all of this is part of the whole child, So that's not even what I'm addressing. I'm talking about your regular, healthy child. You take a year out of their social development, not easily put back. It's really
my next question to you was, do you think that there will be a long-term damage, both socially and emotionally, to the next generation? So do you think emotionally that the children will have long-term challenges with being able to have healthy relationships, being alone at home with a computer?
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that way if everybody would be focused on what are we doing to right away do damage control. I'm concerned that the climate is so about politicizing, and the teachers union, don't put me at risk. And they've said clearly that we're not the children's union, we're the teachers union. So when everybody's busy fighting about adult things, he's a terrible politician, he's a terrible this, you're a terrible blah, 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 blah. No one's thinking about the kids, they're really not. And, doing a study like 5 years down the line.
Too late.
It's not going to be helpful. So, and you see there are parents, in Broward County anyway, that are, they're demonstrating they want school. And by the way, and I don't want to get into a political situation, but all of the inequities, whoa, we're having demonstrations about inequity. The teachers union are the liberal front talking about inequity. Not having school is such, brings forth the inequities. Who is able to manage if there's no school? People who are well-to-do. They can afford to work at home. They could afford to hire nannies. They could afford to do the pods. You heard about the pods. Groups of families are getting together and hiring a teacher. The person who's working at a $10 an hour job cannot afford to miss, has no one to take care of his kids, has no access to devices or to internet or to anything else like that. Those are the kids that are suffering. So in all the talk about let's worry about, the weaker kids, they're the ones that are suffering at least 5 times as much as the well-to-do kids. So anyway, that's politics.
No, it's by the way, you're saying is true. I don't want to say too much specifics. I was in someone's home recently, last week, outside. I went to visit a family when we were sitting outside, and one of the younger children was afraid to be at the same table in the backyard. Mm-hmm. I was wearing a mask. Everyone was wearing masks. So we're outdoors.
Do you think that anxiety is going away anytime soon?
No. And the mother even told me after I spoke to the mother about it, it's not healthy. A young child that should be afraid, sitting 10 feet away from me, to be afraid to sit down on the other end.
I would venture to say that this child has a natural tendency towards anxiety, and instead of giving her tools to show her that she is a competent person and that she can handle it, she's just being
absolutely
anxiety because of what the environment around her, not their parents, but the social environment around her is providing. And that's part of education too. Worrying about the well-being, the mental and emotional well-being of a child is really paramount. And I'm really concerned because we have to live in this society. It's not enough that, our kids will go to school, and I think if you look at all the social unrest that's going on, like I've heard people say, wow, this started so suddenly. My perspective is people sat at home, they were scared, they were worried, and all of a sudden this erupted because it is not natural for people to be alone. People are part of a kahila, they're part of an Ada, they're part of a congregation. And I do think a lot of this craziness was just exacerbated.
So I see comments on Facebook, someone's commenting also the same thing, that his 10-year-old nephew became afraid to be close to them, became very distanced.
Yeah.
And I know that people want to hear personal. So as I'm listening to you talk, and this is true not only about Corona. Corona just where it became like everyone's talking about
Yes.
the panic.
Right.
But I had a conversation recently, and I know this is true, that let's say if I would have seen the stress that you and my father had, Tata Tati had about being in the communal business and caring for shul and people.
Right.
If I would have heard, I'm sure there was stress and anxiety. If I would have heard it, I would have wanted to be a rabbi. You know,
That's
it's important not to allow our stress to go
or
on to
at
the kids
least
by
to
keeping them
balance.
home. We do that automatically.
It's at least important to balance the happiness and the joy that we get from what we do with the stress.
Yes.
In other words, you should see that you know, life is good. We're very happy with what we do, and we appreciate. You know, yes, and the big joke, right? The schedules. Are we doing schedules around the clock?
All night, yeah.
Right. So that's a memory, but I don't think that's the overwhelming feeling everybody had. Oh, how terrible that I'm doing schedules the whole night.
Yes, just explain. I remember as a kid, the week before school started, my mother would be up literally doing all-nighters, figuring out all the teachers' schedules and the.
Right.
Yes.
I'm proud to say that Malki's doing it now for the high school.
Yes. Baruch
She's
Hashem.
much better.
You trained her well.
She started much earlier. You know, kudos. That great job, so she's not stuck the entire night.
Okay. So
Yes.
I really feel blessed that my children are in a private school that's opening. And by the way, I think that if more principals of public schools were able to make the decision about opening their schools, they would. But I think, as you said, that unfortunately many of the principals in the public school system are not, no, you didn't say. I was speaking to a teacher in our community.
Yes, I was speaking to also,
that the principal the principal agrees with you, and the principal who is interacting with the children on a daily basis and understands the emotional needs of the children wants to open, but they have no authority and no power. The decision being made by bureaucrats, whether they like them or not. The bureaucrats, and you know,
it's very, very challenging.
So what are the plans? At the end of the day, there still are real legitimate safety concerns and health medical concerns. So what are the plans for Hebrew Academy? So we're not having a theoretical discussion. We're having a practical discussion. School is starting in a week. What are the plans? How are you doing?
Practically, we've gone through all of the guidelines very, very thoroughly. The Jewish schools have been amazing. The same way that they were amazing with teachers sitting at 10 o'clock every night last year on webinars after teaching a whole day, learning how to do better in technology. There have been constant meetings in schools across the country. How are you doing things? What are you doing? You know, purchasing power together. So what we're basically doing is what has been accepted as the best practice is, number one, every class is going to be its own cohort. So there's no switching classes. Every class, every group of children will be in their own classroom all day. So they're in their space. They're not going to go to 3 different rooms. They're not going to go to the lunchroom. They're not going to, you know, travel around the building. So that the goal really is to contain or to sort of make sure that if and when, and we expect that someone's going to get sick, there's not a doubt that, you know, there will be someone who gets sick, but that it's contained. So it's not like the whole school has to shut down. Even within each classroom, everybody has to wear masks. We purchased these these plastic barriers that go around desks that, you know, may or may not have to be up depending on what the activities that the teachers are doing. All the extra furniture has been taken out so that the desks could be spaced out. We got our air conditioning company is outfitting all our air conditioners with these attachments that bring in fresh air and the HEPA filters. I don't know exactly all the things. They're refitting the air conditioners to circulate and to filter out. You know, they're very strong filters. We've gotten sanitizing stations.
The way I understand the filters is that instead of just recycling the air in the room, they bring in outside air. And
there's 2 things. There's like an attachment that's getting outside air, and then there's a HEPA filter that's supposed to
reduce the germs in there.
You know, capture, you know, whatever. It's EPA approved. Yes. And those have to be replaced, and, you know, they're expensive, but this is definitely the amount. I have to tell you that the amount of companies that have sprung up, we are getting tons of emails every day for plexiglass, for dividers, for this kind of sanitizing station, that kind of beyond. Some people are really being creative and
sure.
entrepreneurs, and I give them credit, but I'm like, delete. I get like, whoa, it's overwhelming. We have definitely, we ordered, the spray sanitizers with spray bottles so it could be diluted, paper towels. The wipes was a big situation. I refused to pay $12 for 35 wipes, not doing it. It's like, that's already disgusting, but that we were able to find with another school, that we got a pallet of wipes against, so the kids will be sanitizing. We got portable sinks that will go outside, so that, because there has to be so much more hand washing and we don't want everybody congregating around the sink. So there's more sinks outside that kids will be able to be,
it's fascinating.
More kids will have more place to wash their hands. All this is becoming a part of the routines. And then there's the schedule, is like, we're not going to go into the computer room. We're not going to go into the library. Teachers will, go pick some books. Like, there are definitely changes in the schedule. Again, any specials either will be Zoomed or the teacher will go around. And the doctors have said that if everybody's wearing masks and there's social distancing, then if a kid in class A is found to have the virus, even though there was a special teacher in the room, she will not already have carried it to another classroom, and therefore it stays,
that's great,
stays contained. And if everybody's been wearing masks, the rest of the kids do not have to quarantine. That child and their siblings will have to quarantine. Our biggest challenge as of now is that if a child doesn't feel well and they go home and they can't get tested, then they have to quarantine for 10 days. The CDC guidelines have now changed to 10 days. The problem is for a teacher, that if a teacher doesn't feel well, I don't want them quarantining for 10 days unless they absolutely have to. The problem is the testing situation is such now that you don't get results for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. So this is a problem. And we're hoping that all those new solutions that they're talking about sort of make their way to Florida, so that,
I never got results. I got tested. I got tested, I don't know, 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I never got results.
Well,
I got a negative result like 3 days later. I still haven't gotten results.
The last few times that we've sent people for testing, the last time I went to get testing, it took 9 days. That's not, you only have to quarantine for 10 days. So honestly, like, what's the point? Right. Stand in line for 2 hours, have someone poke something up your nose, and then you don't get the results anyway. So that is something that is a concern for us. And we are definitely, we don't have enough substitutes, but the other thing that we've done is we're outfitting every classroom, not with the highest end technology. We really, really can't afford it, but the ability, parents have the choice. If they feel like they're not ready to send their child to school, they will be able to participate through Zoom, and they'll have like cameras in the classroom, in a laptop, and there'll be like, team monitors, like amongst the kids, to sort of turn the camera a little bit, and they'll be able to participate in class. It's also going to be for if a child has to be quarantined, they may not be sick. So for 10 days, you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs, they'll be able to participate. So that technology is being put up, interactive boards. So that's
fantastic.
It's a huge investment, but there's no choice. Parents do have to have a choice what to do, if to send their child or not. And I will say, you asked what the parent response was like.
Yes, before I get to that next question, I just want to say that as a parent watching on the outside, and I was seeing as a son watching you spend the whole summer, and I know, and I speak to my brothers very involved, knowing how hard the school's been working all summer to prepare, it makes you wonder the other schools, public schools that have spent the summer preparing for online school. Officially, they've announced now, because there's been a lot of pushback from parents that want schools to go back to in person, that they're going to be revisiting every 10 days or every 2 weeks.
Right.
But how quickly could they transition from an online school back to with all the precautions and all of the requirements?
Well, some of the work has already been done, because the first few weeks it was just like, whoa, what should we do? Once we reached, like, by the time we got to the middle of July, we sort of, like, okay, it started, we could start to picture it. Now it's just a question of, ordering things and money, the cost, and also things are back ordered. It's our plexiglass, we're waiting. The dividers, we ordered ready-made already, but, so that's definitely a challenge. But if I had to start all over again today with all the knowledge that's already out there that all the schools have worked on, it would,
A lot easier. Okay, interesting. So
would
what
be.
has your parent response been like?
So the parent response is we have 142 families in school, and 10 are starting virtually. A couple, there's 2 kids because of specific medical, 3 specific medical reasons. 2 is the children themselves have a specific issue. 1, actually, not that they're unhealthy, but they can't wear a mask. 1 has, some medical issues that, we have to wait. And 1 is that their mother the mother is immunocompromised. And then there's, the others are sort of like, they're a little nervous, they're not sure, but all the rest they're like,
Excited.
Yeah, now,
I'm excited.
In that spectrum, we have some families who were not going to start because they didn't want to wear a mask. They said, we're not sending our kids if they have to wear a mask. And I said, I'm really sorry, but this is the way it is. I'm not going to get into, all the science, they're right, they're wrong, because you can argue,
Till you're blue in the face.
medical guidance, we're law abiding. The medical guidance is you need to wear masks, you need to wear masks. It's really not up for discussion. Children kindergarten and down could wear shields. And by the way, in the early childhood department, there's back and forth with the regulators of early childhood, where it's very concerning. For little kids, the teachers are wearing masks. They don't see, where I'm sitting at home, I'm not wearing a mask. We see facial expressions. But for little kids, not being able to see people's faces is really a challenge. And I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do with that. So the teachers will be wearing shields. It's really up to the teachers. If at some point they feel comfortable to just wear a shield and take off the mask with the little children, at least part of the time, but it's really up to the teacher to feel that they're okay with it.
Okay, so then the next question is, the parents are excited because they're happy their kids are going to be in a structure and the proper environment. They don't have to watch. It's easy to understand those parents' reaction. What about the teachers? How has the teacher response been? Because that's obviously in the public school a big issue.
Yes. So there are definitely teachers who are like gung-ho, they're ready to go. There are definitely teachers who have been very nervous. I think most of the we did have a teacher who's himself, immunocompromised. He had to leave. Other than that, there have been no teachers who said they're not coming back because of that. I mean, we have teachers moving, and so, every year there's always, thank God we have really little turnover, but this year it's almost impossible to find, like, we need extra personnel because we know we're going to need substitutes. Usually a teacher, if they don't feel well, they hang in there. But today you can't. If you don't feel well out, you have to leave right away. So we need more people. So some of the teachers were nervous, but when they saw all of the work that's going in and the preparations for their, safety, so they feel confident.
By the way, this
coming in and seeing how we can, set up the rooms. What would you like us to order? That you feel like, again, teachers have to move doubles, triples, carts, whatever you need. So the teachers do feel that we're taking this very seriously and we're being very conscientious about trying to make sure it's the best environment.
Okay, so this wasn't part of the plan, but listening, if someone's watching tonight and thinks that they could be a good substitute or a good teacher, where would they send their resume? Who would they call? You never know who's watching.
Denberg at HebrewAcademy.org. MORAH, type it in over there.
I'll type it in on your email address, right?
MORAH, Denberg, DENBURG, at HebrewAcademy.org.
Hebrew Academy. So if someone's watching and they're looking for a job and they think that they would be a good fit, email my mother at the school. Okay.
Yeah.
I just shared that as that's a comment now in Facebook.
Any area of expertise, any level of teaching or assistance or substitutes is always good.
You're looking. Okay, you never know. Listen, you never know what will come out of this. You never, ever know.
Absolutely.
So if someone's watching and could be a teacher, the school's looking. Okay. So now let me ask you another question. Obviously, the existing parent body is more or less very excited that they have a school for the kids to go to. Have you seen a lot of interest from new parents that might have not put their kids into a Jewish day school before, but they really don't want their kids stuck at home all day and are now reconsidering?
Well, we actually have registered a child who was in public school into 5th grade. Yeah. Um,
I
and there
know
are
there's a grant.
people who have moved, people who have moved from New York, from California. They just like, they had enough. But a public school, yes, like I said, we actually finalized a registration of a fifth grader.
Today.
Um,
That's great.
yeah.
I understand that there's a grant for $2,500 available for any public school kid that wants to go to a Jewish day school. Could you tell us about that for a second?
Yes, because a religious Jew really believes that nothing happens for nothing, and everything has a reason. And any situation that you find yourself in, you have to see God's purpose in it. So to say that this is all bad, we can't say it's all bad. There has to be there has to be a reason. And one of the things that, the world at large realizes that, certainly in March and April, the world needed to stop for a minute, take a deep breath, reconnect with family and so on. One of the things is that now that all of a sudden your normal day-to-day life, and okay, of course, my kids go to public school, of course, that's normal. People don't usually stop and think about what they do, why they do it. This is a moment when people are all of a sudden rethinking, like, why am I doing this? Why is my kid going here? How committed are they to my kid's well-being, as opposed to just being an institution that just exists? And now that the thought process has been started, here we are. I might never have thought about switching and going to a Jewish school, because life was just, what they say, inertia. You just keep on going in the normal flow. Now all of a sudden that normal flow has been stopped, and people are starting to think. Now that people are starting to think, we're here. A Jewish school needs to be here for every kid, not only for the kids who are already, part of the, part of the audience, but new people, a new audience that might not have thought about this. All of a sudden, there's a wake-up call. So when there's a wake-up call, there need to be people to answer that call.
And you're there to answer the call. So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's watching and their kid are in public school, or grandparent, what would you say is the primary difference, or the biggest difference between a public school and the private Jewish day school?
I think the biggest challenge in a public school is that you are a government-run agency, and there are so many restrictions, and you're not allowed to say this, and you're not allowed to say that, and I can't tell you how to live, and I can't give you any values, and because your values might not agree with my values, and we've become so watered down that there's we're teaching math and reading, but you know what? Plenty of places are teaching math and reading, but there's absolutely no values base to explain why I should learn math and reading. Why is it important to be successful? Why is it important to be able to get along in this setting? So yes, we have character building, but why should I build character? It was recently, it was not so recent, a few years ago, there was like a whole cheating scandal in one of the colleges. I was in a doctor's office, and I remember watching the interview while I was sitting. I remember exactly where I was, because it was so horrifying. And they were saying that the college seniors, they were saying why is everyone makes such a big deal? Everybody cheats. Everybody does this. Like, why has this become like this witch hunt? And I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, this is what normal, regular,
successful.
well, yeah, these were kids who were graduating college. They were not little kids. And to them it was, I'm not saying everybody was saying that, but a large portion of normal, successful, mainstream people were saying like what's the big deal? Everybody does this. And wow. So we realize what a hole, what a vacuum there is of the lack of really being able to say, there are absolute values. There are things that are right and wrong, because there is a place where it all comes from. There is a reason, there is a purpose, there is a mission, and we're not embarrassed to say that. So that gives the child a sense of focus and guidance and direction. Otherwise, well, why should I do all these things? So if you happen to be, a rule following person by nature, then you do it because you're a rule follower. But if not everybody's a rule follower by nature. There has to be a reason. There has to be some meaning, some passion, some, like, why am I going to do this?
Yeah.
So that's to me the priority. Now, on a more practical level, the fact that I'm learning a second language, the fact that all that definitely increases brain capacity, definitely increases your ability to think critically. It's not about information, because today you can find anything you want on Google. You don't need to learn information. You need to learn how to think, how to integrate, how to collaborate, how to solve things, how to make meaning out of things. So there's no question that having more subjects that are different and that are not naturally easy to you are really, really important. If you have to struggle to figure out how am I going to learn this section of a text, of a Jewish text, then you could attack a problem in, I don't know, architecture or accounting or whatever. As opposed to just, okay, I have language arts, you know, I'm a good reader, and you don't really exercise those brain muscles. So having a dual curriculum really gives you a leg up just in terms of brain exercise.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the whole pandemic and what we were discussing earlier about how to, especially for parents or grandparents that are watching, that want to think of ways to lessen the anxiety that their children have. But before I go back to that, I want to just clarify something you said that I think is very important, and I want to maybe just clarify what you said. Would you say that the primary objective of, let's say, the Hebrew Academy education is not primarily educational, but more creating a character in a child and a reason why, more than just the what of math, science, but giving them like the motivation for life and the reasons for life?
The actual language of the mission statement is that by providing a well-rounded education, will develop in our students, obviously, a commitment to Jewish, you know, to the values of Torah and Hasidus, and to develop the character. So that's one line, to develop a commitment to Torah and Hasidus, then to develop these character traits, which is like a lot more lines, and then also a commitment to lifelong learning and a commitment to community, to being a part of the world community. That I'm not just here for myself, I'm here to be part of the world. But yes, a big chunk is to develop the character needed to live life with joy, with confidence, with an understanding of God's involvement in my life. So your father just walked in and he said to be a good husband and a good mother. That's
Is he sharing this on Facebook?
Okay, well, it's not in the mission statement. You could interpolate whatever you want in the
So
is this like a family thing?
Oh boy. Hello, Todd.
Ask any single parent to put on a scale what they want for their child: success in business and success in marriage and life. And ask parents which one. They're both important. But which one is 51% and which one is 49%?
That is an excellent question.
The answer to.
No, because this is one of the major issues that exist in the public school system. Something the Rebbe was a big proponent and advocate for. Let's say, for example, the moment of silence. That schools are not only meant to be teaching knowledge and information to our children, but more importantly is to give them value.
Knowledge is at everybody's fingertips, and kids are adept at using technology. They could find any information they want. They do not need me to tell them what's the longest river in China. I still remember this from 9th grade geography, the Yellow River. So yay, I know that the Yellow River is the longest river in China. So like what? And that's not, I don't know why that sticks in my mind. I also remember chapters in Yeshayahu and Isaiah that we had to learn by heart. And we're reading all these Haftorahs now in Shul, and I remember them. But that's not, that in and of itself is not the purpose of education. Education is the tools through which I utilize my capacity to be a productive, thinking, compassionate human being.
Absolutely. So this is a big problem that in general, the secular educational system has to really deal with.
Yes.
That the focus has become on testing, on certain, knowledge barometers of how much the kids know. And there's very little focus, almost no focus given on the character building of the kids. It's almost like the teacher shouldn't go there. Don't get involved in, on a personal level.
Not allowed to go there. The teacher
Stick to your curriculum. And
I understand that, because what if a teacher has a value system that you have a problem with? So it's sort of the safest. It's not the best, but it's the safest. So, you know, without having a clearly defined reason why values are important, there's a hole. And,
Yeah.
you know,
This is a very, very important discussion. It really could be a discussion in and of itself. A simple solution that can be done in public schools now, and that parents could do with their children, grandparents could do, is the idea of a daily minute of prayer, a daily minute of silence. If you're in the public school system, not just at home, where
Right.
where you remind children that there's something greater than themselves, and there's a greater purpose to existence than just your own self-fulfillment and your own self-achievement, but a greater purpose to existence. And that's,
think
yes.
about all of the big problems that come about is when, whether it's on a political global level or on a just on a macro level of just, you know, a child doing something terrible. You know, no shooter is shooting people because they have a greater good. They have a problem. You were terrible to me. I'm angry at everybody, and that justifies hurting other people. And why not? In the absence of a reason to go beyond myself, and if you're never taught to think beyond yourself, then, you know, this is just, it's extreme, but that's where you end up.
Yeah.
So typically when in our circles, if a child is in a fight with another child, it's not just about how they feel. It's about what leads to that situation. How does the other person feel? How could you become a better person? There's a whole broader picture, and there's a reason why I struggle to become a better person. But, you know, when you don't have that, it's
Yeah. Okay, it's a very important discussion. We'll get back to that another time, God willing.
It's a discussion for itself. Yes, it is.
Yes, maybe with Rabbi Denberg joining in. Okay, so let's go back to this. And by the way, if anyone watching wants to look into Jewish Day School, so I just want to say again, there is a grant available. You should email Maura Denberg at Hebrew Academy, or call the office phone number 954-978-6341. 978-6341. See, I still remember that from my childhood, because when I was a kid growing up, you didn't have a cell phone. So like after school or a Sunday or a weekend, and we wanted to get a hold of you, the way to get a hold of you is calling 954-978-6341. So there's very, very few phone numbers that I remember by heart. Very few. And thank God, the reason why I know my kids' school's phone number is not because I get a lot of phone calls from the school, Baruch Hashem, but yes, there's a pre-cell phone days. Okay, so let's go back to what we were discussing earlier about the anxiety that a lot of kids are feeling today, and the stress. And by the way, the stress is not only from Corona, it's from the politics, from the divisiveness, from the hatred. There's so much toxicity and so much hatred, and that.
And by the way, when a child is home on an internet device, do you think they're not seeing it? When they're in a classroom with a teacher and they're not on an internet device, they could be in a little bit of a protected bubble where they're interacting, where there's joy, where there's happiness, where there's productivity, instead of sitting there and looking at, like, you know, people protesting and rioting and cursing each other out. Like, you know, how do we expect the kids to feel differently when they see all of this? Children are very sensitive. They're very intuitive. They are not stupid. They're small. They don't necessarily know how to explain things, but they're not stupid. And they know when people are angry. And anger is frightening. It's very anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
They feel powerless. They are powerless. They don't feel powerless. They are powerless. You know, so, you know, it's anxiety provoking for adults. So how can we expect it to be different for kids? It is so important to put kids, you can't tell them, don't worry. They have to feel like they are competent people. And the only way for them to feel competent is to interact, to solve problems, to overcome challenges. Sitting at home on a computer is not making that happen. Even if they do a puzzle on the computer, it's just not happening. They need live interaction. They need to be given a challenge, and they need to be able to succeed at that challenge, and to see the little steps, step by step, how, wow, I did that. Great. Okay, I didn't solve all of it, but I solved part of it. Okay, let's keep on going, and so on. They need to actually experience success. You know, people say, "Oh, I don't want to hurt the child's self-esteem." Self-esteem comes about when I actually accomplish, when I actually am successful at something, whether it's overcoming a fight with a friend, whether it's figuring out how to organize my binder, whether it's figuring out how to make something neater, or figuring out how to answer a question. All of those things build self-esteem because the child has become successful.
Okay,
You know?
so the Rebbe often said, "Hamaisahu ikr," that we have to always focus on practical results, practical outcomes. So this is a fascinating conversation. I want to end with a very practical question, with a very practical, the reality is that the majority of kids in our community will be in an online virtual setting, at least for the beginning of the school year. And obviously at this point, no one knows how long that will go. So there's a lot of parents that are watching tonight. There's grandparents that are watching whose children or their grandchildren will be in this virtual environment, who have already spent 5 months living in an overwhelming, environment of fear, where even if the parents aren't talking about it, the TV is on and they're hearing the daily statistics and the daily death count and the daily this and it's never ending. Wherever you turn, people are talking about it, and the masks. And
in a very negative way. The headlines are all couched negative terms. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Even now, when thank God Broward, it's already been 2 weeks that the Broward numbers, percentage rates are below 10%, and they're declining. They focus on the death rates. That's like 3 weeks behind, and they always focus on the negative.
Right.
So,
I don't hear anyone saying we're making positive steps forward. We're not out of the woods yet, and no one's saying you should stay out of the woods. But like, they're not saying, you know what, we're turning in the right direction. Like, let's give people a boost. I don't know why it's politically incorrect to be happy.
Be happy.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
That is a good question. That question we won't be able to answer tonight. The question I do want to ask you, as an educator of 35 years, is what practical advice could you give to a parent that's watching, or a grandparent, or someone that cares? How could they help their children that will be in this online environment, that will remain limited at home, that won't be having, even if they're going to classes and they're not going to the after school clubs, and they're not, a lot of the kids that I've spoken to, they don't even mind so much the online class, but then they're missing all the electives and the sports. So what could they be doing to give their children or grandchildren more positivity and more happiness?
One practical thing is to get out of yourself a little bit and to really try to find some way that you can focus on someone else and help somebody. So that would mean trying to find, and again, you could probably find online, like agencies or organizations that, whether it's people who are in trouble here locally, like, in the county, homeless, shelters, food banks, or finding something that's a little, more long distance away, but to really start thinking, you know what, we're so lucky. We have a home. Baruch Hashem, we're able to get food. Thank God everybody's healthy. We're able to learn online. I'm saying it's not good, but you say to your kid, this is great. We are so fortunate. We are so lucky. Let's see how we can help somebody else. And if you make that a serious project, and the parents or grandparents, someone has to be involved with guiding a child through this and talking a child through this. Number one, it requires really being positive about what we have, really being thankful about what you have. Not, oh my God, this is so terrible, I'm stuck at home. You've made a decision to be stuck at home, make it positive. We are so fortunate. We are healthy. We have a home. We have a backyard. We have a pool. I don't know, whatever. We have teachers online. What can we do to help people who are less fortunate than us? Yeah. And that's not scary when you present it in that way, that this is a gift. Hashem is like, He made us bankers. We have all of these gifts that He gave us. It doesn't have to be only money. It's time, it's ability. and let's see how we can help somebody. Maybe, maybe we could sew little things for kids who are, let's say there are kids in hospitals who are sick, not only from corona. Unfortunately, all the other diseases are still here. There are still kids with cancer and all kinds of other whatevers. We can make little arts and crafts gifts for kids, or we can put together packages for kids somewhere who are, who are hungry, or I don't know. There's plenty if you use all these tools to find. But I think that is, turn it away from our problems and our anxieties. Practice being grateful and really seeing the positive in what we have, and go find someone who needs your help.
It's a beautiful, beautiful message. Yes. Hannah has done a few such programs with the kids online. I think one or two. They made cookies to deliver to somebody else. That's yes.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Yes. When we're involved in helping others, it definitely gives you more meaning and purpose to your own existence. And
there are exotic places. I don't know, help someone in Africa. I'm like, whatever. But those are the 3 steps. You need to appreciate and be positive about what you have.
I've seen a few of our Hebrew school kids going every Wednesday to the Chabad in Coral Springs, helping deliver and help thousands of people are coming to get free food every Wednesday, and I've seen some of our students that are there volunteering.
That line stretches, and I think that everybody who stands in the heat for an hour and a half giving people boxes of food, I don't think anyone regrets that time and that sweat. I think every volunteer really feels they feel this is meaningful. They feel this is, gives them a boost in their own life, that they spent an hour and a half schwitzing to help people get food.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That was really good. That was really good. I think you made some very, very important points. Very well said. I hope a lot of people see and try to, in whatever way they can, to give their children as much positivity and as much happiness and as much energy and light, and not to allow the darkness around us. At least our homes should be a cocoon and to be a little island, a little oasis of serenity and of peace in a very, 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 very crazy world out there. That's our job, to create an oasis within our homes.
Right. And it is also a great opportunity, especially for grandparents. Just, Chabad.org, there are so many places you could learn something together with your grandchild, just a little bit. Here and there, make a set time once a week for, 20 minutes to learn something, a Jewish concept. Certainly add, meaning and reason.
Okay, that was beautiful. As always, it's a pleasure to talk to you, both on Facebook and off of Facebook, and in person and off person. Wish you a happy birthday. It was your birthday 15 days ago? So we'll wish you a public...
we're already at the end of Av, so it's a couple of weeks already.
Yeah, a couple of weeks. But we didn't wish you publicly on Facebook a happy birthday, so we'll wish you publicly. God should give you a lot of blessings. Many more years of being able to educate many more generations until you're the proud grandmother of the rabbi. And only for good things, for health, for nachas, and for lots of blessings.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.